I think it's one of the issues that is so core to me, because as a mother raising children in this country, you understand some of the struggle that many of our youth are going through. Initially, like you said, in the 60s, even Africans have been, especially Nigerians, Ghanaian, and mostly the people from Ethiopia are coming to this country as earlier time. And most of those times they used to go back home, take the children back home with them. And some of them end up, marrying here and take their wives and everybody back home. But as time goes on, as early as in the 80s, people are staying. They're staying because, looking back in Africa, they see that a lot of things are not really what they expect, or is not the right environment to actually raise the children. And they believe these children need better education, better upbringing. So, they end up staying here. And staying here takes a lot of challenges. That challenges comes with the first generation in terms of understanding, trying to figure out balance between being an African as well as their cultural heritage as an African heritage, as well as American heritage. So in balancing between those worlds, and the parents who also come in with immigrant experience, which is what they push on the kids all the time, in understanding that, listen, this is what I want you to do. I want you to be successful. I want you to go to school. You have to be a lawyer, doctors, and all this other stuff. You have to be religious. You have to understand the culture that you were born into, without looking at some of the challenges these children has to go through. Because as an immigrant, we have immigrant experience. We don't have black experience. Black experiences in this country is historical. And coming with that, when a lot of our children, maybe from high school age, they face a lot of challenges regarding gang violence, bulliness in school. And many of these kids, many times they might not want to come home and discuss it with their parents, because they feel like African parents wouldn't understand. Because the only most of the time of what we ask them is that just focus on your schooling. Don't get into trouble. Don't get arrested by the police. Do a lot of all these things that we try to, which is very good. Every other parent, whether you're African American, you are Latino, or from the Caribbean, they want the same thing for their children. But we have to understand this society that our children are growing up in, and to understand their challenges. The stress of this country in itself, as a parent, as a unit, is very challenging. And I've seen many broken homes, both husband and wife, they end up divorcing, and maybe a single parent mother home, or a single father home. And the children has to be able to balance through this world. And then, even if they are both parents in the home, back home when you are growing up, you have aunties, you have uncle, you have extended family that they always there, because you need more than your parents. You need uncles, you need cousins, you need the whole community, because it doesn't just take only parents. According to African proverb, they said it takes a village to raise a child. And that village is not here for many of our children growing up. Even if the father and the mother are there, that child might be in isolation when it comes to battling between the issue of being able to balance between the both worlds of African heritage and American heritage. Because as I said, as an African immigrant, we have immigrant experience. And as a single parent myself, it wasn't something easy to raise 2 children by myself, because you have to think about work. You have many parents who are doing multiple shifts, whereby they have to think about, paying rent, paying all these bills, and putting food on the table. But in America, when there's no adequate supervision, there's idea of, other issue coming in. Because in America, it's very challenging. It takes a parent, all your ears, eyes, everything has to be open. It takes 24 hours to actually be in connection of, what your children are doing, what is going on. Do they need my help? When they want to talk, am I open to discussion with them? Am I myself emotionally able to handle the challenges that is going on? So those are part of what many of us face. Well, I started saying that because coming from, looking at the way my children went to school, and one thing I saw, I said, you know what, I need to actually, since when they were in lower school, to understand the essence of their culture and their African heritage. I've never taken them to Nigeria before. One thing I'm against, many of our people, they say, oh, we have to take the children back home to learn culture. As if you don't have culture in yourself that you could extend to your children. Because if you have culture in yourself, you don't need to take them back home to teach them about culture. So when my children were growing up, and I've taken them to so many cultural events within the New York City, and in their school, I'm so engaged into their well-being, academically as well as emotionally. Actually, in my children's school, I introduce African storytelling, which is every year I go inside the school, because I want them to have that sense of Africanness in them, and also to balance. I wasn't just teaching them about African culture, I also exposed them about what it is to be black in America. When my son was 13, there's a program at Augustinian Church called the Rite of Passage to Maui, which is actually based on African tradition. And I took my son there, because I can't teach him what it is to be black in America, because that is not my experience. I have immigrant experience. So I took him down there, and he spent a whole year in that program. And he was assigned a mentor. Actually, the mentor is still in his life till today. So, and I understand the essence of that culture is very important, because I don't want them to lose their identity. Yes, you have to, because when they become teenagers, they want to do certain things with their friends. And that's when you have to put it down and say, you know what, we can afford to do this. Okay? It's very difficult, because you have to battle with other people's value system. And one thing in America, your culture is within your house, so as long as it doesn't infringe on the law of the United States. Yeah. Okay, so from the teenage age, they want to challenge. But you also have to be flexible. You have to understand where they're coming from. You have to build trust in them as well. So it's two-way street. And you have to be, to open up that communication and dialogue, which is what I did with my children. I've experienced that, with mine, in terms of that respect, which is very important. And sometimes, you just have to understand, sometimes, the kids might be that we're not brought up in a sense that whereby our kids can easily come in and say, I just want to talk. There was a situation whereby my son, usually when I picked them up from school when they were still in going to school, in high school and lower school or middle school, the moment we get into the car, they want to tell me how their day went back. And I listen, I put my own judgment in, tell them this is what I feel about this. But as time goes on, I start realizing, which my son will challenge me. Sometimes I just want you to listen. It's as if you come, many times I tell you something, sometimes you just make up your own opinion without actually listening to me. To the extent it gets so frustrated sometimes. I say, I'm frustrated about this. Okay, why don't you listen to my own perspective? And I had to actually sit back and realize that, yes, I need to actually listen. And that part of frustration, when they are frustrated, it could come in a way of anger towards the parents. And you might feel like, are you challenging me? Are you disrespecting me? But then instead of me actually be more aggressive, that's when I lower my voice. And I find that by me lowering my voice, I actually lower the tension and the aggressiveness. Each one of the children have their own personality. For my daughter, it's a lot of emotion. Girls tend to bottle a lot of things inside, and they don't want to trouble you many times. Sometimes it has to do with, you know, having more conversation with them that they might feel comfortable. Because for my daughter, she's very sensitive, whereby sometimes things is bothersome to her and she feels like, I don't want to tell my mom because I don't want to worry her too much. Or she might be thinking sometimes, I don't want to ask you to buy anything because I know you have to pay so many bills. Compared to my son, who careless and said, I'm just going to ask you, I need this. And then you have to come out and say no. So each, is one way or the other. Every one of them, whether a boy or the girl, have different, kind of quality, And one thing that I also see, regarding the children, I don't tend to favor one for the other. I treat them on an equal basis because I know in terms of an African home, whichever the kid that is doing so well in school is the one that actually get that favor compared to the other one. We feel like, it needs to be neglected because, you are not actually doing what you're supposed to do. You are not actually listening to it. Sometimes, the kid who is acting up might be asking for help.
Are there boundaries that, you must set? You feel like, yes, the boundaries I must set as an African parent, an immigrant experience that is driven by your African culture? Of
course, there are boundaries. Like I said, even among the African American, everybody have boundaries within their home. I remember sometimes when my son tells me, oh, I need to hang out with my friends. I might not come back, or I'm going to stay out at night. And I always tell him, I need to find out where you're staying. I need to find out where you're going. Because, then he tells me, oh, but so-so-so's mother doesn't do that. I said, well, that's so-so-so's mother's house. This is the rule in my house. So I need you to abide by that rule. We could dialogue, we could compromise on different things, but there has to be boundaries. And every parent always have to set boundaries. But my own issue in terms of, what I see is, and I'm actually pushing, is about listening to our children.
Food is a big part of culture.
Yes.
At what point do they just feel like, African food?
African food. Me. But it depends on it depends on the kind of food, because I can't afford to be going. With my income, I can't afford to be taking them to a restaurant when they want to eat. So at a very early age, I make stew, jollof rice, which is one of their favorite. But as time goes on, they might say, well, this is what they're eating outside, and I don't really want that. My son was the kind that, when he was younger, he was kind of like sensitive to different food. He doesn't want to taste certain food. And he was taking food from home to school, whereby he warmed up, maybe rice and stew or something. He will eat that. If he has to eat it he eat it by alone and take the soup and drink it later on. That's, how we understand,
Wow.
And I never, but, in terms of, I got creative myself, whereby I introduce different dish from different culture as well. I learn how to, make pasta with Italian seasoning and all kinds of stuff like that, to actually, let them feel comfortable and say, you know what, you don't have to eat only African food all the time. So I got creative myself, to understand. I could make steak one week, I could make jerk chicken, I could, cook different things. So you just have to balance that when it comes to the food, And many of our food, like my daughter, she likes pop-off, chin-chin, different things like that they eat. Regarding the language, I do speak Yoruba to my children, and they understand. But in terms of speaking it back, that's where the challenges comes in. No matter what you want to say, they understand what, which I actually should have pushed more for them to actually respond back to me when I'm speaking Yoruba to them. Because it's very important for our children to be able to understand the language. Because many times, it's also to their own credit to say that they are bilingual. Because, to be able to relate, also to people from that continent. Because many times my son has been in the subway whereby some people are speaking Yoruba and he approached them, I understand everything that you're saying. And they said, well, do you speak it? They said, no, I don't speak it. But one thing they call me Iyami. So that's instead of calling mommy, they call me Iyami. But we speak the language, I speak the language most of the time to them in interacting back and body language is what a lot of our children look into. I remember, recently my son was talking to me, said, I want to talk to you. And I said, yeah, okay, I'm here, I'm listening. So with my body language telling him that as if, say what you have to say. I said, I have to go, please say what you have to say. Even though before then there's kind of like tension into some of the issue that was going on before he asked me to want to talk to me. And looking at my body language, he said, you know what, forget it. I said, what do you mean forget it? At least I'm standing here, and I'm standing here, I want to listen to what you have to say. He said, your body language already indicates to me that you already made up your mind. So there's no point of me saying anything anymore. So that body language goes on both ways. But as I said, a lot of time when children, they kind of, when they can't express themselves freely, then you will see the negative body language that comes in towards the parents. And I see many times, as an African parent, being that they feel like we're not open enough to their own perspective on things. So a lot of time, they tend to shy away from actually engaging us into conversation. Our relationship with African American, also actually African in the diaspora, because you have the Caribbeans as well who are in this country, and I don't want to leave them out.
Yes.
Okay, you have many South Americans too who are also people of African descent. But with a lot of African immigrants, as well as, let's start from there, as well as African American, it's as if it's telling the story of two children who were born by the same mother. And somebody took one of those children and said, I'm taking you away to another land.
Yes.
And you are going to stay there while we colonize you. You that we're taking away, you're going to stay here, you're going to do everything, we enslave you, we look at you this way, we're going to treat you this way. And actually we're going to give you perspective about the homeland that we took you from. That in Africa, those people, they have no advancement. Okay, they are primitive. There's no civilization where you came from. And then you Africans, this is the picture I'm going to portray of African Americans to you. That they are lazy, they don't want to work, they have so much opportunity at their hand, but they just want to commit crime. So it's about divide and conquer. And I think we all have to come together to the same table and start having a discussion. Because whether we like it or not, as an African immigrant, which is most of the time what I tell my children, you are still black in America. I don't care whether you're a doctor, or you're a lawyer, or you're a judge. The aspect of it is that you are black in America. And whatever African American goes through, you're going to go through the same thing. Because, we could raise our children to achieve the best of everything. It's not written on their forehead when they go outside that they are doctors. So they have to face the same challenges that African Americans face. But many African American, many people in this country too, there's so many who are raising, who are helping their parents.
Okay.
I've met many African American, I met people from the Caribbean who never put their parents in, even white who never put their parents in the nursing home. But you have to understand this country, the way it's structured. Okay, you have, in Africa, we don't have Medicare, we don't have retirement plan, we don't have all those things that is actually in this country. Your social security, I would say, okay, supposed to take care of you, supposed to take care of your old age, whatever it is that. And I've seen many, I've come across so many people from this country who never put their parents in the nursing home. But it depends on also the health situation that is going on, that it might not allow those parents to continue to live by themselves. If the parents have dementia, and you as a family, because like you said, coming out from home in Africa, you might have a job whereby you don't need to stay with your parents. Because we don't have a nursing home. You might hire somebody who will stay with them. You might have a actually nurse if you are well enough in Nigeria or many other part of Africa. You might hire a nurse and say, I just want you to stay with my father or my mother and just take care of them. I'm going to pay you. So we have to look at the structure of that society, the structural system that is taking place. Like I said, children in Africa are the social security. Here, okay, that social security is being taken away because it is structured in different layers. And like I said, I've seen many people of this country who never put their parents in a nursing home. They take care of their parents, they do what they have to do with them. It's very challenging to many of them. And that also comes into play when they don't want to identify themselves. They kind of like hide the identity of that African identity.
Just to belong.
Just to belong. So they don't face the rejection. One of this Ghanaian young lady who was born here, I read her article, she called it code switching. Whereby when you're among the African American, whereby you might think that you'll be challenged about your heritage, you're not going to come out and talk about your African heritage. So, and then when you come home, you have to carry that African heritage because that's what is being, is expected of you from your parents and from your community. So, like I said, that dialogue has to take place. Regarding stealing jobs and all these other things, we have to look at the institution itself. Because one thing I've told many African American friends is to be able to understand the purpose of the whole institution. What message are they passing? Because nobody challenges the Europeans who are also illegal immigrants coming into this country, because they never show those Europeans and say they have to start integrating ourselves. And they too, they have to understand. That's why I said the dialogue has to take place between both sides. We have to start having dialogue between both sides to understand that, you know what, we're both from the same mother and father. And we need to start understanding each other's struggle. Because we could learn a lot from one another. We could learn a lot from one another. So that conversation has to start. And we need to start, bringing our brothers and sisters who are African American and have dialogue with them. And they too, they need to, open the door, open their ways, and understand that, you know what, we have to come together and start having a conversation. We have to understand that we are one. Nobody fight battle by themselves. Okay? When you look at the Latino community, they might have friction among themselves, but when it comes to issue, every one of them comes together. Because you have to be able to pull yourself in numbers. So we have to find that commonality among ourselves, that we are Africans and, we are going through the same thing. So pull our differences. Maybe this will teach us to understand that, you know what, I have to understand the next person who may not be from my cultural background, who we don't speak each other's language, but we have something in common together, that we're all immigrants in this country, and we're struggling through the same thing. When you talk about let me give you an example of DACA. When DACA, President Obama gave, opportunity for a lot of those children who were born here at a very young age. They fought, they pulled themselves together as a form of one community, saying that we have a common ground of issue that we want to focus on. So Africans have to start learning from that we have a common ground, whether you're a Christian, you're a Muslim, or you are a non-believer, to understand that there's a commonality among us, and that common ground is what we have to find to be able to have the dialogue and to put our differences on the side, respect the differences that we all have. Okay, you might have different value system of beliefs from, but to understand that this is the issue that we're all facing right now, and we need to be on the same page. Because a lot of our kids, they feel like they have no outlets. A lot of things that they go through inside, and nobody's asking them, how are you feeling? What is it that is going on within you? Talk to me. So they just walk around and pull a lot of things inside without actually having a way to express themselves. So if we can get the parents to understand that these are the challenges that your children are going through, and start that dialogue, if they can sympathize with the struggle of what their kids are going through, maybe they will start expanding. So understand that, African American community, we have to understand what issue that they too are going through. So we could bring the dialogue in. We could pull ourselves together and say, this is time for us to start exchanging ideas and start coming out with the solution. People of African descent, so help one another, try to resolve even issue within our community. Okay, because like I said, one thing I see with a lot of us immigrants, we haven't really integrated ourselves. Okay, because there's different growth from just finishing college, going to work. If you're still going to church or mosques within the people of of your background that you didn't pull yourself out, even getting involved in issue that is going like Black Lives Matters. Find out what is going on. Go there and listen to the lecture. Go and listen to what their struggle is all about. So until when we start understanding from that aspect of things, okay, then we could invite and start having that dialogue and start having that conversation.